Hello, and welcome to the Stabler and Friends podcast. I'm your host, Stabler, and thank you for being my friend. It's Sunday, January 2nd. The good news is my New Year's resolution is still intact because I'm trying to do a pod every day for 30 minutes a day or less. And day two, we're still doing it a little bit harder than I thought, guys. That's the good news is the resolution is going on. But the bad news is I tried to do 30 minutes yesterday and I was only able to get about 12 minutes. So it's a work in progress. We're still going. Starting to figure out the sound dynamics. Excuse me for a second while I close this door. For some reason, this room just kind of echoes, and I'm putting up the sound pads and everything, but I'm still not quite where I want to be. I think opening a window. There we go. I think that's a little bit better sound. Well, still a work in progress. Hoping by day 365, I'll have some more fans, a few more followers, some people that like the show, and I hope that I can do a little bit better with my programming and to do some high quality stuff, video editing, things like that. Yesterday, we talked a little bit about the college football playoffs. We did a preview for the University of Utah Ohio State Rose Bowl game, which did not disappoint. And I also mentioned that we talked about Notre Dame and Oklahoma State in the Cotton Bowl. Was it Sugar Bowl? Excuse me, Sugar Bowl. Couple stats for you guys. Notre Dame has never blown a 21-point lead since 2004. They're 79-0 when leading by 21 points or more. That didn't happen last night. They had a 28-7 lead. Oklahoma State came back and beat them. And that makes Notre Dame, since the BCS championship games, they are a record of 0-8 in BCS and or New Year's Day bowl games. So disappointing for Notre Dame. Rough season. They had a big chance to make the college playoffs. They lost to Cincinnati, had a big lead. Debut game for their coach after their other coach left to Oklahoma, I believe. Let's move on to the big game that we care about around here. Well, my friends from Utah, the Rose Bowl between the Utes and the Buckeyes. It was a classic. Unfortunately, Utah was on the losing end of that. They ended up losing 48-45 to Ohio State. I hope if you're a fellow degenerate gambler, I did not bet on the game, but if you did, I hope you took the points because it started off at 3.5, and I don't think it got lower than that. So you would have covered if you bet on the Utes and took the points. It was a sad loss, especially with getting that big of a lead, a 14-point lead going into halftime. To let them come back, it was really tough in the fashion that it happened. But there are a lot of positives to take from this. Start off number one, Bryson Covey, who's a Utah legend. It feels like he's been playing with us for a decade now. He had a receiving touchdown, and he also had a kick return for a touchdown. So his last game as a Ute, playing in the Rose Bowl, he did everything he could. Super proud of him, excited. Cam Rising, he looks so good. He looked so on point. Like, I know CJ Stroud's the best quarterback in the country, but he was giving him a run for his money in the first half. Looked good. Second to last drive, he ended up being hit in the head, knocked out. Really scary moment. It's always scary when you see kind of the way the hands cringe up and just go limp kind of thing. So it's a scary moment. Glad he's okay. And the positive for that is we have him next year. At least, who knows, he might stick around and do a senior year, which is very likely. And I think we have our quarterback for the next couple of years, which is exciting because he's looked so good. I know that a lot of people say things like, oh, I wanted this person, I wanted that person. And we always, the most popular player on the field is always the backup quarterback. From everything that I heard at the start of the season, it even kind of sounded like there was whispers of people wanting Cam Rising as the starting quarterback when we went with Charlie Brewer. Hindsight's 2020. Who knows where we'd be if Cam Rising started the whole season. I don't know if that's fair to say for Charlie Brewer, because the way that the offensive line was struggling in the first few games for Utah, the way that our defense struggled with a little bit of communication, things along the lines of that. They had to come together as well. They all came together. So there's more pieces than just Charlie Brewer. But Cam Rising did outshine, and he looked great. And I'm excited for the future for the Utes. Another positive, Clark Phillips. He's only a freshman. He might be our second best player on defense. Probably best now that Devin Lloyd's gone. So it's going to be really exciting keeping him around. I really think Utah did all they could, and ultimately a lot of it came down to lack of depth in the secondary positions and having to put running back Micah Bernard in at corner. Ohio State exposed the weaknesses and defense behind the arm of the nation's top college quarterback, CJ Stroud. He ended up passing for 573 yards, and their receiver Jackson Smith, I'm going to try it. I apologize if I don't get it right. Smith Najigba. He set a record for 347 receiving yards. It's amazing, especially with Ohio State having their two best receivers out that went to the draft. But it just shows how deep these prestigious college teams are. Being able to recruit this type of talent. They fill in a bunch of freshmen, a bunch of young receivers, and they looked great. Marvin Harrison Jr. looked good out there, made some amazing catches. And although the picture did not look like him, the picture that they had on the ticker whenever they popped him up, when you look at him in that helmet, he looked exactly like Marvin Harrison. He looked just like his dad. It's crazy. It's kind of funny just watching players the older that I get, because I remember how excited like my dad would get when Peyton Manning showed up and he was a fan of Archie Manning and things like that. Now we're seeing people with their kids coming in, like a Vladimir Guerrero Jr. in baseball, or in this scenario, obviously Marvin Harrison Jr. So kind of fun to be able to see them and see how they progress, and if they're as good as dad or not quite there or better than their dad, things like that. So a lot of fun seeing him. Shout out to the backup quarterback, Bryson Barnes, for Utah. He came in to tie the game up in the final minutes of the game. I don't like that I thought this way, but after the way that Charlie Brewer played himself out of a job and then quit on the team, I started thinking about Brewer as soon as Cam Rising got hit. I'm thinking, is this guy at home with his arms folded and a smirk on his face thinking, oh, I bet they need me now, or something like that? So for Barnes to come in and have two great passes and get us a touchdown to tie the game at the end, that was exciting. Like I said, I wish I didn't think like that. It's kind of in the back of my head. It's not even a real thing. It's just a thought that I had, and I just felt like talking about it. But yeah, it's just interesting. And I think I'm a little bitter that Charlie Brewer played himself out of the job and then wasn't man enough to stick it out with the team and help the team however he could. Lot to look forward for Utes fans. Lot to look forward to for Ohio State fans. We know that they're going to be in the mix for the playoffs next year. Hopefully Utah can too. So here's to next season. I'm really looking forward to a good season next year. All right, moving on to the NFL. I watched games all day from 11 a.m. till it is about 6 o'clock right now. I think the Sunday night game is about to start. Antonio Brown, this guy, if you haven't heard, he decided midway through the game that he's done. He walked over to the sideline. He took his shoulder pads off. Mike Evans is over there trying to tell him to keep it back on, stay cool, like work it out. He said, nope, I'm taking it off. Threw his jersey out, threw his t-shirt out into the audience. And then he just got the crowd pumped up, saying what's up to Jets fans, giving high fives, gives them all a peace sign, and he's out. This guy, I hope the best for him. I hope he figures out whatever he wants in life. But man, this guy has been nothing but trouble. Like, it was so weird because he was no trouble in Pittsburgh, or as far as we knew, he wasn't much trouble. And then he just, towards the end, all of a sudden just started getting issues with the Raiders, went over to the Patriots. Seemed like Brady and Belichick kind of had him in his role, doing well the Patriot way. That's what they do. But a few incidents from before ended up getting him off the team there. So I believe he was suspended And now this year and last year, he joins the Buccaneers, and hey, everything's going smooth. I mean, he lied about a COVID vaccine and he got suspended a few games, but they kept him on the team. Came back last week and was looking great. And I cannot wait to follow up. All the head coach Bruce Arians said was he's no longer a Tampa Bay Buck. Antonio Brown went to his Twitter account and just took a picture of himself with the tagline that just says super gremlin and the hang loose sign. So I don't know, a few pictures of him waiting outside during the game for his ride to come pick him up. I think this is the last we see of Antonio Brown. I can't imagine anybody else in the NFL taking a chance. That's not true. I could see a team taking a chance as long as you're talented in the NFL. Sometimes you get away with a few more things. It's the hot to crazy scale. How good you are to how much baggage you bring. Are you worth it? And I mean, he's still showing that he can play. I'd have to imagine he's done, but I'm never gonna say never on a situation like that. The Eagles won today. At the end of the game, Jalen Hurts going to the tunnel, giving some high fives to some fans. They're all leaning over, trying to get their hands in for a slap, and the railing breaks, and about 4 or 5 people fell into the tunnel area. Probably a good 4-foot, 5-foot drop, maybe. All fell. The railing bumped Jalen Hurts. Everybody was okay. They all hugged. They smiled. They took some pictures. So I'm glad everything's okay because that was kind of a scary moment. I did not see this live. I'm just seeing highlights, but Odell was still in the game after he threw a punch, and the punch that I'm seeing is Odell just running up behind a Raven and just popping him right in his butthole. Just a butthole punch. Excuse my language, but that was one of the weirdest things I've ever seen in football. Next to Antonio Brown just throwing off his gear and leaving. Strange day today. Playoff picture. Next week, you guys could have been probably the most insane scenarios for playoffs, but a lot of the teams that needed to step up today ended up losing and basically are probably getting themselves out of contention here. I'm looking over at the AFC, putting themselves into contention. The Las Vegas Raiders ended up winning against the Colts today. So that will keep it close. The Colts are 9-7. They have the tiebreaker, so they're in the 6th seed. Currently, the Chargers are in the 7th seed, and then the Raiders are in the 8th. Top 7 teams make it. Raiders and Chargers play each other next Sunday. I'll have to figure out who the Colts play. I'm actually going to do a scenario show on part of the show tomorrow as soon as I get a little more details. I don't want to say too much, but looking at it, after the Chargers won, I think it eliminated the Dolphins, the Browns, and the Broncos. The Ravens still have a very, very slight outside chance. I'm going to tell you more tomorrow once I figure out what the scenario is. Pittsburgh still has a slight chance if they beat the Browns on Monday night. I think whoever wins out of the Chargers and the Raiders is in, and I'm pretty sure that the Colts are in if they win as well. So if they lose, I'll figure out what the scenarios are on that end. On the other side, the NFC, it is very stacked at the top. Packers 12-3, Rams 12-4, Tampa 12-4, Cowboys 11-5, Cardinals 11-5. All these teams have clinched. They all look like Super Bowl contenders, but they don't all look like Super Bowl contenders every week. I would say Green Bay has looked the most consistent throughout the season. They had a rough little start against the Saints early on, but they have looked overall like the most complete team in the NFC. I haven't seen them look like I feel like they are the best team in the NFC week in. Like they haven't shown me that amazing week too often, I don't think, compared to what the Rams potentially show they could be, what the Bucks potentially show what they could be. Dallas looked good last week. They didn't look so good this week against Arizona. Arizona, who started off 7-0, and now they've been 4-5, I believe, since then. You just don't know who you're getting with them. I think the Niners have looked pretty consistent aside from quarterback play, and they're doing enough to keep winning. So I think the Niners have a good shot. The Eagles, they do just enough. I think that they will probably get in. And then the Saints, I think, are just on the outside and looking in, as well as the Vikings. I think that's it. But man, whoever gets that number one seed, that's so big, getting a bye week and everything going through your town. If Green Bay gets it, I don't see anybody beating them. Getting that bye is so important. It saves you from injury. It saves you from a potential fluke loss. And then home field advantage in Lambeau, freezing cold, the tundra. They're not going to be used to it if when LA or Tampa comes in, or Dallas or Arizona. These are all warm climate teams that are going to have to go into a very, very cold, loud stadium. Scary on that end. The Chiefs lost to the Bengals. I want to give Joe Burrow credit. I don't give him credit very often, but this guy has done everything that when I watch him, I think that he is an elite quarterback, or is going to be an elite quarterback. He looks like the real deal to me, and he proved it to me today even more by beating the Chiefs in a shootout against Patrick Mahomes. Pretty crazy ending to that game, guys. They ended up going for it. It's a tie game. They're on like the 1 yard line, and there's 40 seconds left. So 4th and goal, and they're going to go for it. That tells you something crazy. When Patrick Mahomes is on the other side, or Aaron Rodgers is on the other side, or Tom Brady, or somebody like that has that much presence that you are scared to leave 50 seconds on the clock because they could go down and score on you, that you go for it on 4th and goal when you could get a field goal to take the lead with 50 seconds. That is crazy. So anyways, dump off pass to Joe Mixon, reaches out. They said no touchdown. I think after review, it would be a touchdown, but there were offsetting penalties. So we go again. And you think, man, Cincinnati, is it bold or is it stupid? I can't quite tell. And do they dare try it again? So they get up, they line up, they snap it, they go for it, they go for the throw. Incomplete. But there's a flag. Defensive pass interference or defensive holding, either way. Gave him an automatic first down, and now all they have to do is kneel on the ball and let the time run out until it's time to kick a field goal. So that's exactly what they did, and by winning that, they just clinched the AFC North. And Tennessee beating my Miami Dolphins, they jumped up to the number 1 spot, just over the Chiefs. So if they win this week, I believe they will be the team with the bye and the home field advantage on the AFC side of things. So a lot of interesting scenarios. Again, we'll get to that tomorrow. Quick shout out to the Dolphins. They won 7 in a row. They lost today. Defense looked great. Don't let the score fool you. The defense did all that they could. The offense, just, I don't know. I don't know about Tua. I was so excited when the Dolphins drafted him. I still have highlight moments where I just get so excited about what he can do. I'm always told how smart he is, how aware of things he is, but it just seems to me when I watch him, he just doesn't have the quarterback presence of like needing to release the ball or knowing what's around or know when to run. And he took a sack today on 3rd down that knocked us back 5 yards, and we missed a field goal that hit the goalpost. Would have made it a 9-point game. Would have kept it close, and him taking that sack and us not getting the field goal just really seemed to make us forced to go on 4th down, other things like that. And that's how the score got ran up. But overall, it was a much closer game than it was. But every week it's so hard to judge these quarterbacks. I mean, you have your elites, you have the top ones that you know are good. And then you have these young guys that kind of go up and down. Your Kyler Murray. I know that we think, like, a lot of people think he's good. I think he's good. I see him struggle sometimes now. He started off well. Since he's came back from the injury, he struggles. We've seen Dak go up and down. We don't know, is he a good quarterback? Is he a bad quarterback? Josh Allen's had a couple struggles. Lamar Jackson's had a lot of turnovers in crunch time, but we consider them good. We have the Baker Mayfields, the Tuas, you don't know what you have. You're starting to lean towards that you don't have it, but then they show you a few things that you're thinking, oh, okay, we might have a shot here. I'd like to give Tua another year before going off and trying to find a new quarterback. The only time that I get to a point where I want a new quarterback like right away is after, well, I guess it wouldn't even be right away, but it's after they've shown what they are. Okay, the Dolphins had Ryan Tannehill forever. I know that Tannehill's had some good numbers the past couple of years. Maybe it's a new system, or maybe it's a lot of the weapons where you just have to hand off to Derrick Henry a lot. But like quarterbacks like him, quarterbacks like Carr, those guys don't excite me. At this point where there's so many talented young quarterbacks coming up, I think I would look to move on if I was those teams. Garoppolo, I mean, maybe even Kirk Cousins. They kind of been around long enough and shown that they haven't really elevated the next level. Matt Stafford to an extent. But anyways, I'm getting off topic. I just wanted to talk about the Dolphins and how cool of a run that was to give me hope all the way up until today that they can make the playoffs. They're officially eliminated. But if you would have told me that we had a playoff game today or a play-in game today 2 months ago, I wouldn't have believed you. When we were 1-8, I would have laughed. But at least I had a fun day, a frustrating day. Thanks to my wife for putting up with me and my poor language during the game. But yeah, it was a wild day. We could have had a lot of 8-8 teams going into next week, but it pretty much spread itself out. And there's only going to be a few games that really have a lot of impact. Pretty neat though, adding an extra playoff teams. It seems like there's more meaningful games, especially with that one bye game, or the only one bye team in each conference. So next week should be entertaining. After we get a little bit more set up, we'll talk about that, set the placement. Fantasy today for most leagues, if you are in a good league with a good commissioner, this is your final week. This is your championship. Never be in a league that the very last week is your championship. There's teams that are going to be resting. There's teams that just aren't going to play any of their players. Teams that aren't up for it because they're not in the playoff contention, things like that. You got to do it this week. This is the week you have to do it. Found some stats. If you are in the championship right now, congratulations. 48%. This is according to ESPN's fantasy. I'm a Yahoo fan myself, but ESPN's fantasy had 48% of teams in the league have Cooper Kupp. So pretty much if you have Cooper Kupp, then you are in the championship right now. And I think he did pretty good for you. 38% had Mark Andrews. This one is a little wild for me. 37% has the Dallas Cowboys defense. And then rounding off the next few, Alexander Madison, surprising. Deebo Samuel, not so surprising. Devontae Adams, Jonathan Taylor, tight end Dalton Schultz, and Hunter Renfrow, as well as Cordarrelle Patterson, all 30% or higher, between 31 and 33%. So if you had any of them today, that's great. The one person I do not see on this list, and I'm going all the way down to 24%, is Jamar Chase. So somehow, if you have Jamar Chase in your championship, I think you're in pretty good shape. He had about almost 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. If you have Joe Burrow, maybe you got a chance. Send me your championship lineups. I like to see them. Congratulate you guys. See how it went. See how your draft went. Let me know. My league, we do our champions dinner where we only allow people who have won a championship to come to dinner with us after the season's over. We have my buddy Paul Clifton, who has been a champion. He is a former champion, so he gets to come to the dinners whenever he's in town. And challenger Nate Twitchell is still battling it out. It didn't look like it was much of a game. And then Trey Lance to Deebo Samuel with a combo. Now it looks to be about a 4-point game. I am in another league down to looks like a 2-point game. And in a different league that I'm in, we have this one lovable guy named Gabe. Gabe, I hope you're listening, buddy, because you talked that trash all season long. You made it to the championship. I didn't think you had it in you again, but I think you're going down, bud. And I think this is what the league needed. You as our villain to all come together against you. So enjoy your L, and we'll see you at the draft next year. Love you, buddy. That's enough I got for football. Last thing, I do like WWE wrestling. I like AEW wrestling. I like the I like the fun staged wrestling. So I know it's not for everybody, but I think it is a fun thing. I've been getting together with some friends for the pay-per-views. Last night there was a pay-per-view called Day One. Uh, thank you to Chelsea and Oliver for having us over for the matches and for the pizza. That was great. Showed up about halfway through. The crazy thing is there's this guy, Roman Reigns, who's top dog, been the best for a year. He's going to fight his challenger, Brock Lesnar. I'm sure a lot of you have seen Brock Lesnar, the old UFC fighter, old WWE wrestler, played for the Vikings practice squad one year, just a big beast, but they were going to go at it. Reigns says that he has COVID, and so the match got canceled. They moved Lesnar over to the other side for a different championship, and he ended up winning. And I just wanted to think about it for a while, and I wanted to know what everybody else's thoughts were. Was this planned? Did Reigns really get COVID? Or how would they last second know how to set up such a choreographed match that's really well done and have Brock Lesnar win the title when he wasn't even supposed to be in it? Yeah, let me know your thoughts on that. Probably won't talk too much wrestling other than when the pay-per-views are coming up. We do have my favorite one, the Royal Rumble, coming up at the end of the month. So I will be talking about that. That is the end of the show for today. I got one in, probably not as long as I wanted it to be again. Working on it. Maybe I'll get a guest on here. Maybe that'll help my time go up. I appreciate you guys listening. I know that not everybody's going to agree with me. I love to hear feedback. I'd love to have you on the show if you don't agree and you'd like to talk about it. Or even if you do agree, I'd love to have you on the show. We don't need to be every debate show that's on ESPN. You know what I mean? So reach out to me. Thank you again for listening. I'd appreciate if you liked it, if you'd subscribe, because I don't want to spam it all over my social media all the time. I just like to put it in the YouTube. You can also hear me on Spotify and Apple Music. So this has been Stabler and Friends. Thanks, and I will see you guys tomorrow.